this 2-day program, we will be exposed in the different facets of compensation and benefits and how we can best utilize them to make sure that we achieve internal equity, market competitiveness, affordability, and alignment to our business strategies and ambitions. This course is for HR professionals who would like to gain better insights on how rewards and remuneration can be effective and yet affordable. Join me and the other HR professionals as we share our insights, experiences, and HR life's lessons about compensation and benefits. I am Vivian Cruz, your global training partner for Certificate in Compensation and Benefits program.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Trainers Lounge, the show where we talk about anything and everything about L&D. And in celebration of the Pride Month of June, we are continuing our episodes and discussing diversity and inclusion in the training place. Well, last time we talked about how you can create or some steps that you can take to create your own diversity and inclusion training plan. And this time we have another guest where he will talk about how to include or how to promote diversity and inclusion in the training room. So during the training course itself. And before we meet him, of course, don't forget to follow our social media pages. You can check us at Facebook on CLDP Philippines. All of our previous episodes are there, so don't forget to like and follow our page. Also, our episodes are available to be watched at YouTube. Just search a Circological Group and you can see the Trainers Lounge playlist there. And if you're feeling a bit lazy to watch and just want to listen, don't worry, we got you because we are now on Spotify. Our past episodes have been uploaded there, so if you want to listen to us, then feel free to check us on Spotify. Well, without further ado, let's get to know our trainer for today. Our guest for today is a CLDP or Certified Learning and Development Professional with more than 20 years of experience in training design and delivery. It also includes project management and leadership. And he is a Certified Learning and Development Professional with the Global Skills Development Council. The last 6 years, he has started his own practice and has served clients locally, including countries such as the US, UK, Canada, Australia, Dubai, and Lebanon across different industries. He is a cisgendered gay man and uses the pronouns he and him. All right, well, ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Mr. Jeff Garcia.
Hey Kevin, good afternoon.
Hello.
Good
Hello, good
afternoon.
afternoon.
Yeah,
Well,
good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you are in the world,
uh,
to our heteronormative and our friends in the binary and those that are not in the binary. Hello, everyone.
all
It's nice to be
right.
back. Tagal
Yes,
na din.
oo, well, sa mga viewers po natin, a bit of a trivia, Sir Jeff is actually our guest on the pilot episode and it's been a year na. Parang
Oo, di
hindi
ba?
ko
Sino
na-check.
mag-aakala it's been a year since the pilot episode of actually
Hindi
more
ko
than a year
na-check.
yata or a year na.
Oo, oo. Ay, hindi tayo nakapag-celebrate. Siguro one of these days gawa tayo ng special episode for the anniversary of Trainers Lounge. But
Hmm.
anyways, ayan, thank you so much for giving us your time again and joining us
Sure.
here to share another afternoon of learning. And yun, as I've mentioned earlier, our topic is about diversity and inclusion in the training room. So last
Mm.
time kasi we talked about diversity and inclusion training plan with Sir Alvin. And ngayon naman, ito yung siguro mas more active approach kasi during the training session itself siya. Ayan. Well, without further ado, I'm going to let's get on with our first question. Ayan. Well, siguro, what is the importance muna of promoting or making sure that a DNI is in the training room or present in the training room?
Um, Siguro, Kevin, let's go back to the premise of training kasi, no? In training kasi, there is the concept of and the engagement of people. Yun yung pinaka-importante sa training. So, dahil tao and you are dealing with people, you are dealing with employees, and of course, no, alam natin yan. When you get people in the training room, you get people from different backgrounds, get people from different ethnicities, especially for me, no, if our audience is similar to me, where I delivered online training for my global clients, tapos I have attendees from different parts of the world, so i-consider mo pa yon in your training room. And of course, even at that day lang, no, kahit hindi pa natin pag-usapan yung cultural, ethnic, or values backgrounds ng mga tao, even their belief systems, even just for that day, no, ano yung situation ng tao for that day, what is happening in that day, it's very important to create a training room that allows people to be fully present as they are, no? A lot of us kasi, like, pupunta tayo feeling natin we are ourselves, pero a lot of us also come to work na parang how many of us come to work na ikaw talaga yun, no? Especially for us in training kasi we are held to somehow a higher standard, no? I come from an old school training background. I've been in training for 22 years. Nung nagsimula ako ng L&D, parating sinasabi sa amin, oh, you dress one step higher, ganon. Or you can't speak a certain way. Hindi ka pwedeng masyadong magaslaw kasi trainer ka. So parang ikaw mismo as a trainer, there are too many restrictions for you. Hindi ka rin you know, who you are as a person. Pero times have changed eh. And when you have people in your training room, it's very, very important that you take people as they are. And alam naman na natin, I believe Alvin has discussed, no, kung ano ba talaga yung benefits ng having a diversity, equity, and inclusion program in your company. Research has constantly shown that in terms lang of retention, in terms of keeping or hiring the right talent, and even research has shown yung financial gain by being and by having a diverse, equitable, and inclusive training program is reason enough para ano mo siya, no, ipasok mo siya sa tawag dito, ilagay mo siya as a cornerstone of your corporate DNA, even in training. So, napakalaking bagay na, meron kang DNI sa loob ng classroom. And we're talking here, Kevin, of not DEI training, but being diverse, equitable, and inclusive sa training room, whatever topic you have. Hindi lang dahil DEI yung topic, kung ka lang diverse saka inclusive. Ang pinag-uusapan natin is kailangan diverse, equitable, and inclusive tayo kahit ano pa ang itinuturo natin. Once a person enters that training room, lalo na kung sa inyong organization ay deeply rooted or actually binibuild na, no, yung DEI sa company DNA ninyo, mas lalong inaasahan na dapat sa loob ng training room practiced siya by the trainers for any topic. Plus think pa, no, kung ang isang training ay 8 hours, tapos sabihin natin 5-day 8-hour training, 40 hours kang kasama ng mga tao, abay dapat lang talaga na
you have to make sure nga naman nandun yun.
Oo, kasi 'di ba 40 hours kayo magtititigan. Parang hindi naman yata nakakatuwa if they feel unaccepted or like ang pagpasok sa training mo ay parang threat, no, sa kanilang person. So really, really important.
Yun. So thank you for clarifying then siguro. So to our viewers, the episode actually is focusing on practicing DNI, not teaching it. Ayun. So just a heads up to our viewers. But yeah, I think that's actually one of the things na not necessarily pondered upon that much, no? Pero I think it should be one of the hallmarks of a trainer's plan. Parang ganun na when you do training, ano ba yung ano ba yung dapat kong gawin to make sure everyone feels included, not just the activity, not just ano. And it's
Correct.
not just the activities, it's also how you talk, how you
Yes,
act,
it's
how
actually
you
the
move, diba?
interaction eh. It's the interaction na ikaw as a trainer and how you interact with the students. Remember kasi, di ba, in the training room, trainers we facilitate experiences. Are your
Oo.
experiences diverse, equitable, and inclusive? And actually, pwede din tong, if you are a training leader that is listening to this podcast, are you also being diverse and inclusive with your trainers? Kasi syempre, kung ang trainers mo rin ay pinahihirapan mo at sila mismo ay feeling nila they are not accepted, tapos you hold them to a standard pa, definitely it will trickle down to the learners. Alam mo yon. Kaya nga din sinasabi ko really, I firmly believe na, let's say for example, yung concept natin ng perception management in L&D na trainers have to be a certain shape and form na dapat walang maipipintas sa'yo mula sa tuktok ng ulo mo hanggang the tip of your toes. Is that really diverse and inclusive for your training team as well? Kasi tatandaan natin, training leaders, what we ask our trainers to do, what we have our trainers do, nag-trickle down siya sa ating mga learners. Pasa-pasa lang yan eh. So pag
Of course,
ninega mo yung trainer mo, itinega din nila yung learners mo. So,
that's why yung feeling ng seclusion, yun yung iniiwasan natin eh. That's what we're trying to remove inside, not just the training room siguro, on your L&D team as well.
Sa L&D.
Kasi well, as a teacher then before, I understand what you feel na sakaling yung leader nyo, ganyan, tapos ikaw magtuturo, ikaw mag-initiate the lesson. That's true. Well, moving forward naman with the episode siguro, I wanted to talk about as well some of the practices na commonly used in training na hindi natin napapansin, hindi naman talaga DNI friendly. Ayan. So,
hindi DNI friendly or siguro mga hindi nakakatulong in perpetuating DEI, no? Ako, hindi ko sasabihin hindi ko ito nagagawa ha. Disclaimer lang.
Opo.
In my 22 years, I've done mistakes, no? I mean,
wala naman perfect.
Close naman. So, talagang I've learned from the mistakes I've done. And minsan din, because again, you're dealing with people, it really is, timplahan siya. It really is finding the right balance, no? So really, it's more of our interaction. Ano ba yung mga nagpe-perpetuate or at least yung mga hindi DEI friendly, as Kevin said? Siguro if you take a look at it, siguro yung mga practices natin that do not offer siguro a freedom of choice for the learners. For example, hindi ko alam kung may mga gumagawa pa nito, no? Pero dati, when I started, meron pa mga seating arrangement yan. Wag mo pumasok tsaka si ganito, sa parehong department. Kasi maligalig yung dalawang yan, liligaligin yung buo, so paghiwalayin mong ganon. So bakit? So dun pa lang, may biases ka na about certain learners. Tapos you're not offering them that freedom of choice. Dito ko gustong umupo eh. Bakit natin hindi binibigyan ng freedom yung learners natin? Kasi yung bias natin, nangunguna na, salbahe itong dalawang to. Pag pinagsama natin yung dalawang salbahe, hawaan nito yung buong classroom. So again, no, dahil any activity, any practice that does not allow that freedom of choice, I think is something that is counterproductive to your DEI efforts. Isa rin sa ginagawa natin, ito yung sinasabi ko parati, Kevin, I think you've heard this when I facilitated the CLDP classes, that humor. Maraming trainers are now trying to be, nagkaroon ng term yan entertainer. Trainers that entertain. Yes, dati meron yan. And there are some people that think na bad yung term na entertainers. Na parang, dahil entertainer ka, you entertain pero you don't train. Na-entertain lang sila. So sa smile sheets nyo, masaya lang sila. Pero pag tinignan nyo, ala naman natutunan. Parang yung derogatory term siya. Kasi parang ang saya-saya lang ng klase nyo. Parang isang malaking party lang siya. Pero paglabas, walay. So, ito yung sinasabi ko, humor. A lot of trainers use humor. Pero humor kasi really is a double-edged sword. Napakalaking double-edged sword ng humor. Lalo na if you're not naturally funny. Tapos magpapalipad ka ng joke let's say, ayan, marami tayo dyan eh, magpapalipad ng joke, tapos hindi lalanding ng tama, hindi natin alam, hindi pala maganda
Awkward.
ang dating ng joke sa tao. So, yari ka pa niyan, HR ka pa.
Oo.
All for
Well,
the
swerte
sake
ko na lang. Swerte ka na lang kung awkward lang yung mangyayari. Pero kung may
Correct.
tinamaan ka pa, ay, Diyos
at may
ko.
na-offend ka pa,
Oo,
yari ka na,
yeah.
no? For the sake of humor. Humor is good, kaya lang humor kasi has to be very well placed and very well timed. It takes a special kind of person para mag-humor inside the classroom. Tapos isang practice din siguro, ito nakikita ko sa madalas sa mga trainers is that when they see, kunyari, alam na natin to Kevin, pag nag-training ka, ang first mo, titingnan mo yung roster mo. Tapos yung roster mo, ima-match mo ngayon sa mga pangalan, magro-roll call ka, syempre, no? Titignan mo. Ako, I remember, nung una, so I worked for a BPO. So, ang mga pangalan doon, syempre, ayan na. Sa hiring ako, I was comms trainer. Pangalan. Alam mo naman sa BPO, it really is a bastion of pride. Everyone and anyone is welcome. So, I had this name. Alam mo yung name na barakong-barako. So, pangalanan natin, kunyari, 𝐾𝐫𝐿𝐿. Ganun yung pangalan. Pangalan pa lang, matigas pa sa bato. Tapos, nung tinawag mo, trans woman pala. Trans woman pala siya. As in, hindi naman siya fully transition. Hindi pa siya nag-gender reaffirming surgery. As
But
in,
ano na siya?
presenting
Feminine na siya.
Woman. Oo. Pero let's say, ang pangalan nga niyan, totoo niyang pangalan, Batong-Bato. So ako, nung nangyari sa akin yun, nagulat pa ako, nag-joke pa ako, nagtawa pa ako. No? Parang hindi nagmamatch. Over the years, I learned na isa sa mga challenges natin as a trainer is to, kasi minsan ginagamit natin how we react or we use our personal experiences as baseline measures kung paano natin i-measure or kung paano natin sasabihan kung ang mga tao kung paano sila mag-react. Yung standard line na, ay hindi naman ako homophobic, ay hindi ako sa mga bakla kasi meron akong 3 kaibigang bakla. So, ginagamit natin yung lisensya na yun. Kasi ginamit ko sa kanila yung joke na yun eh. So, hindi naman sila na-offend. So, bakit ka na-offend? Kasi ma-arte ka lang. So, a lot of us use our baseline experiences to measure kung paano dapat mag-react ang ibang tao. No? And we tend not to be open to, kasi in training, lalo na kung kayo po ay new hire trainer, kayo yung induction trainer, pagpasok, kayo yung nagniningyo, ayan, dapat you have to be very, very open for the kind of people that you come into. No? Ito na nga yung sa inside the classroom eh. Minsan, alam naman na natin yun, huwag na tayo mag-deny mga L&D friends. Alam naman na natin yan pagkatapos ng session, chinichikan nyo nga sa mga fellow trainers nyo eh. Kung sino yung mga pumasok. Uy, si ganito, ganyan-ganyan. Uy, si ganito, ganyan-ganyan. So, all of these actually are counterproductive to DEI. Kasi pagpasok ng tao, we put
bias
certain labels on people. So we're not, remember kasi the main definition of diversity is accepting and recognizing the differences in people, whether it's ethnic, racial, social class, gender identity expression, kung ano man yan is to recognize na meron. Eh, ang ginagawa minsan ng iba, nire-recognize nila, yes, pero pagchichismisan nila pagkatapos, or may pahagingan pa nila, biro-biro lang, ganon. But it tends to be very counterproductive and it actually perpetuates that culture inside the training room.
I see.
So, ilan lang yun mga top of mind.
Ilan lang yun. Oo. But siguro, I want to add, or I want to clarify something. Siguro yung first part na sinabi mo, the avoid things that do not offer options, ganyan. Something came into mind when you talked about the participants. What about the assigning them in random groups?
Ayun. Ako, I would always say, di ba, ang ginagawa natin sa training normally, may nakaupo na yan, tapos pabibilangin mo 1 to 4.
1 to 4, oo yan.
Tamad kang magpag-group, 1 to 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, ganon. So, syempre, medyo wala ka ng hold doon. Swertihan na lang yon kung ano ang bilangan nila. Pero ako, in my classes, I would normally, if I have the opportunity to, kasi syempre minsan, gusto mong mag-offer ng freedom of choice, pero minsan, the circumstances will not allow you. Ako, hanggat maaari, I tell them, you form groups of your own. Kasi we all know, you become successful when you work with people that, you like, you bond with, or you have a certain, instance, pero it depends on the exercise. So let's say if it's a social perspective taking exercise, you want people to get perspectives from other people. So you want them to be grouped with people na medyo hindi naman opposite, pero different from them. But, yung mga ganong exercises need a certain level of readiness para mangyari yun nang hindi sila nagsasapakan dahil magkaiba yung nila, yung opinion nila. It doesn't have to be naman parang clashing with your HR policies. Kahit yung mga maliliit na bagay lang, like where do they sit? Or for example, ako, in my training rooms, hindi ko na sila pinatatayo. You don't need to stand. O kaya yung for example, pagka kailangan nyo nang mag-CR, labas lang kayo. Hindi nyo na kailangan magsabing, Sir Jeff, pa-CR. Diba? I mean, paano pag pinigilan ko kayo? Magkalat pa kayo dyan, kasalanan pa natin. Oo, labas na lang kayo. Yung mga ganun maliliit na bagay na you trust your learners to do because they are adults and professionals. A lot of people din kasi think na parang, training room ko to, so papatratuhin ko to na parang classroom ng mga preschool. Pero hindi dapat ganun eh. We trust our learners that they are adults and professionals. So ako, that's what I do. I offer them that freedom of choice. So mag-CR, may CR ka, hindi kita hanapin. Bahala ka dyan, paikot-ikot ka dyan. Basta pagbalik mo, alam mo, sasabihin mo sa akin. Mga ganun. I do that from college up to corporate training eh.
I think that's one of the thing as well na mindset na a trainer should have. Siguro yung your learners or your participants are no longer students. They're already
no longer children. They are students, but they're not children.
Sorry. They're no longer children. Ano ba sinabi? Students ba? Sorry. They're no longer children, but rather they have trust. Trust them that they have this sense of responsibility. Kasi at the end of the day, if they don't give you that drive that they want to learn, hindi naman ikaw yung kawalan eh.
Correct.
Well, it's a reflection, yes, sometimes, but at the end of the day, kung hindi nila aaralin, kung hindi nila isa sa puso yung skills or the things that you're talking about, then they're the first ones that will show the effect of that. And you as a trainer naman, you don't have to be so controlling because you're afraid na hindi sila matututo, ganyan, na you're overstepping the line.
Maganda nga yun na they're afraid na hindi sila matututo. But I know a lot of trainers na hindi yun yung primary concern eh. Ang primary concern is, kasi pag bumagsak sila, babalik sa scorecard ko eh. Kasi pag nag-transition sila sa operations, tapos palpak sila, babalik sa team ko eh. Ako yung sisisihin eh. Not necessarily the welfare of the learner. So I think to me, as a trainer, as someone that trains in the classroom, very important that you trust your learners kasi they're adults they're not children. Trust that they will create and make the right decisions. Rather than kukulong mo sila na bawat kilos, bawat galaw ay ipapaalam sa'yo. So, yung freedom of choice kasi it doesn't have to be na parang in violation of HR policies. Yung mga maliliit lang na bagay. It also takes away the stress from you as a trainer.
Oo nga naman, di ba?
Tipin mo yun, sa tuwing may tatayo at magpapaalang mag-CR, titigilan mo yung discussion mo para lang, yes, sige, go na. Diba? So, let them trust that they will make their own decisions.
Ayan. So, ayun, some of the some pa lang eh. Just some of the practices, common practices that we do that really doesn't, promote PNI. But now, moving forward, I guess, let's talk about naman the benefits. So, now that we kind of had an idea how to avoid them or what we do wrong, if we do it right, what are the benefits of making sure that everyone feels included in the training session?
Okay, so remember, training, guys, is directly linked to HR, more so recruitment and selection. It's been shown, especially ngayon, Gen Z na ang ating workforce, and some of our trainers are also part of Gen Z. So, alam natin yan. Ang Gen Z ay ang workforce na need a lot of affirmation in their professional lives. They need to feel valued. They need to feel accepted. They need to be excited with whatever they're doing. And when it comes to DEI, it has shown that when you have DEI practices in place, you hire the best talent. You hire the best talent that's out there. And in hiring the best talent, you also retain the best skill that you have, and knowing na ang primary or ang initial interface ng isang bagong hire sa kumpanya, no, ay after nung sa recruitment process is training. Kasi kung iisipin mo, ang recruitment process para siyang panliligaw eh. Walang recruiter na magsasabi ng hindi magagandang ugali ng mga tao sa opisina nyo at ng hindi magagandang practices ng kumpanya nyo. Siyempre, binibenta niya yung kumpanya nyo eh. So, hindi niyan sasabihin, uy, may pasensya ka na, medyo, yung mga trainers namin dito. Hindi nila sasabihin yun. Kahit yung mga hiring managers, hindi yun sasabihin dito. Hindi yun sasabihin sa interviews. So, pag inisip nyo, ang initial interaction talaga ng isang hire sa isang organization, kung ano talaga yung organization, is with training. No? So, doon pa lang makikita niya ni Gen Z, do I have a future in this organization? Maganda ba ang training program? Will I have a future in this organization? Sa training ba, nire-recognize na yung views ko, yung values ko, yung skill sets ko? And for training professionals and leaders like me, na mga baby boomers, nagbanggit na ako ng edad, wala kayo narinig, huwag niyong computer. Na mga katulad ko na medyo maagang pinanganak, we have to recognize the fact that the Gen Z workforce, they will leave if they are not happy. Hindi sila magdadalawang isip na umalis if their needs are not met. Studies show someone from Gen Z will shift to different jobs within 3 years. Hindi na yun nakakagulat. Hindi katulad sa atin na we were trained and na-ingrained sa isip natin na ito yung organization mo, aamagin ka dito, ugating ka dito ka na magre-retiro. No, pero for the Gen Z, it's not. So, from a hiring standpoint, from a retention standpoint, DI is good. Financial gain, no? Financial gain is very, very important, no? A company, again, organizations and research have shown that when you have a good DEI policy in place, there is financial gain. Your bottom line increases. I believe it was McKinsey, one of the top 4 consulting companies globally, that had the research that says companies that have a very diverse board and decision-making board had an increase of around 10 to 30% in their financial bottom line just because of diversity. No, kasi when you have diverse, you create the best decisions eh. Ang daming options, ang daming ideas, ang daming viewpoints that are available to you. So dun pa lang sa decision making pa lang ang leverage with having DEI, and all of that starts in the classroom. Kasi tayo nga yung pinaka gateway. I remember ako yung initial training. So kung ano yung ma-form na perceptions in the training room is actually kung ano yung maki-carry on pagdating niyan sa operations or pag na-meet na nila yung mga teams nila, doon yan, no, magtutuloy yan. And we're not, by having a very good DEI practice in place in your training rooms, we are starting to ease itong ating mga new hires. And even our seasoned employees, no, pag unti-unti nating in-introduce, tayo yung actually nag-i-inject ng DEI sa company DNA natin. Mm-hmm. And again, it has to start within the training team as well.
Definitely. I guess also, no, it's not about just parang professional gain eh. As sa akin, if you are into looking, or if you are looking into promoting DNI or making sure that there's DNI in your classroom, sa akin it's not about professional gain or financial gain, but rather being a decent human being na lang, no?
Yun na lang eh minsan, di ba?
Yun na lang eh, like ako, hindi lang naman, I don't want to lift my own chair, pero hindi lang naman kasi dahil kasi importante ang DNI ngayon sa training, importante ngayon ng
kasi maaasumpo tayo ng gobyerno.
Lalo na ngayong June, ganyan. But no kasi I've been in different situations, I've been with a lot of different groups of people, and it doesn't hurt to be a decent human being back to them, di ba?
Pero we have to understand din kasi, Kevin, na bago na kasi yung workforce natin it's Gen Z. Tapos kung tinignan natin, ang karamihan ng ating mga business leaders ay mga baby boomers or even millennials or zennials na hindi pa malinaw sa kanila yung konsepto ng DEI, lalo na kung very ingrained sa culture nila, no? Yun yung medyo disconnect eh. Yung workforce mo, bagong generation na, pero yung leaders mo, are stuck in a generation. So there's this generational gap na hindi sila nagkakaintindihan. A lot of people still kasi, and I think Alvin will agree with me kung naririnig ito. Hi, Alvin. Magkaklase kami ni Alvin nung batch natin
Ayan.
sa CLDP. Ayun. Nandun yung generational gap na pag sinabing, ay, ginagawa naman na namin yan Bakit tayo magbibigay ng special inclusions? Kaartehan lang yan or dagdag gastos lang yan from our end. Or yun nga, minsan ang ginagawa, compliance. Not necessarily the nature of being mabuting tao. But we also have to understand that there is a gap din in the generation. Yung pumapasok na mas bata and those that are leaders na hindi din naiintindihan gaano ka-importante yung DEI with the current generation. Huwag na natin i-mention yung legislation at yung mga maaaring mangyari. Kasi nga, there is
already.
Oo. Mag-ano pa yan magbo-border yan on compliance issues. And alam naman natin that most organizations don't have this in their DNA, but more so are doing it for compliance.
Well, ako siguro, not to put the leaders in a bad light din naman. It's just so happens talaga na they have a different way of doing things.
Correct. May generation gap lang talaga na hindi nagkakaintindihan. So, both sides, like the Gen Z, have to reach out and explain. And then the leaders also have now the opportunity to listen and see. So, mag-usap. No? Parang hindi natin nilalagay into a bad light any one of both. But it's well important that both sides have to meet in the middle to see how they can move forward with this.
I agree. And well, when today's na-mention mo na rin yung today's setup, with the rise of the pandemic a few years back, up until now, may konting effect pa rin. Nag-emerge yung new style of training, which is online. So siguro, let's talk about the two practice or two types of training, which is the classroom based and the online based. Start muna tayo sa classroom, and what do you think are the best practices, or at least yung mga good practices that you should at least have when you are doing classroom based training?
Medyo nabanggit na natin yan kanina na-touch na natin yan sa initial question which is offer your learners the freedom of choice. Papiliin nyo sila, whether it's a group, it's a seat. Also is to leverage more responsibility to your learners. Again, consider them as adults. Bigyan nyo sila ng responsibility. So kung meron silang freedom of choice, there has to be a corresponding responsibility that comes with that freedom. So ipaalala ninyo sa kanila yon. Ako, I would focus now on online kasi lahat tayo nangangapa sa online Ako, isang ginagawa ko, I think maliit ito, but it actually allows for DEI is one, a good example, may mga training akong alam or may mga organizations akong alam na kapag nagpapatraining ng online, bukas ang camera, buong training session. As in buo. For one, stressful yun. Napaka-stressful nun. Nabukas yung camera. Doon nga nagsimula yung, alam mo ba yun, Kevin, yung ipinagbabawal na technique. Nagtuturo pa tayo rito ng hindi maganda. Alam mo yung ipinagbabawal na technique na ginagawa ng mga kung pipicture sila, yung background, nakatingin, tapos papalitan yung virtual background nila. Tapos papatayin yung camera, yung virtual background yung ilalagay nila. So si trainer, turo ng turo, akala nila nakikinig. Galing naman itong estudyante na to, hindi nagpapatay ng camera, nakikinig. Papansin mo, hindi kumukurap, hindi humihinga. Yung pala, ginamitan ka na ng ipinagbabawal na technique. Ako hindi ako nagpapa-on ng camera unless they're going to speak. Bakit? I recognize that not everyone has the luxury of space. Hindi lahat tayo may espasyo para mag-online. Baka mamaya yung kwarto mo ay kwarto ng lahat. Yung pag yung nasa likod mo ay sampayan. Pero wala kang choice kasi ito lang espasyo na meron ka So by not requiring people to open their cameras, you're recognizing that the experience is different. Hindi tayo lahat pare-pareho ng espasyo, ng resources na available to us. Yung pag-mute, no? Pag may tumilaok, nag-good morning lang ako, hindi ko na masyadong pinapansin, kumusta naman po yung mga kapitbahay nyo, yung mga manok, yung mga tricycle. You really have to be careful of, sa akin, very heavy yung jokes na nilalatag mo. No? Very, very heavy. Ako din, sa online training kasi 'di ba minsan we tend to call on people tapos yung tao minsan hindi makakasagot agad. We allow that. Wag nating sasabihin, "Oh, anong ginagawa mo diyan? Ba't di ka nakakasagot?" I would normally say, "Sige, babalikan kita pagka okay ka na, no? Pag makakasagot ka na," and we move on to that next person, no?
Mhm.
We don't put anyone. I don't put anyone on the spotlight hangga't maaari because that's not recognizing kung ano yung nangyayari sa bahay. With online training kasi, you never know what's happening in the house. Kahit sabihin ng organization mo, you find the quietest place, you find the ganito, hindi mo alam what is happening sa bahay. You don't know what is happening there. So by just having that, you are recognizing na magkakaiba kayo and you're still including them in the conversation. When someone wants to speak, you always ask. Pag nag-discuss kayo, like, you always ask, is there anyone that would like to share their experiences? Kahit hindi tanong, ask them to share their experiences. Walang problema. Very good yung ginagawa ni June. Actually, kay June ko to napulot nung nag-training kami. Yung bago pumunta sa second slide, magbibilang muna siya. Friends,
1,
any
2, 3, 4.
questions? 1, 2, 3. Thank you very much. Let's move on to the next slide. That's a good, kasi binibigyan mo ng time. If they want a voice to be heard, okay lang yan. Another thing I do is not only for online and for online but in person. I encourage people to speak up kahit gaano kakaiba their opinions are. Kahit doon sa tinuturo ko, kahit salungat siya sa tinuturo ko. Sige lang, say your piece, say your truth. Kasi maraming trainers natatakot sa ganun eh. Lalo na yung mga bago. Parang kasi ito yung tinuturo ko. Pinagsabi,
Parang wala naman sa pinag-usapan.
Oo, parang wala naman to sa course ko. Wala naman to dun sa resource namin. Paano ko di ba? And sometimes may ganun eh. Pero allow for that, no? Allow for a difference in opinion. And if there is, address it respectfully, no? Very, very important. Ako ito, isa sa mga last na to, pinaka-importante, pronouns. Dito, since we're looking at pride, no, pronouns are a big thing. Language is a big thing. The way we speak is a big thing. For training, we have to ask. If you don't know, the basic rule is, if we are dealing with people from the LGBT community, when we do not know, we ask. We ask respectfully. Second rule, pag sinabi sa atin kung paano gawin natin. Huwag na nating kontrain. So for example, now when I see someone na yung name sa akin, kasi dito sa Philippines, for our transgender brothers and sisters, mahirap ang proseso ng pagbabago ng legal name. Hindi siya latag na madali. So you would get participants na yung given name nila or yung legal name nila does not match how they express or how they identify. So pagka ganon, you ask. So for example, Sir Berto, how do you want me to address you? What pronouns would you like for me to use? Ask. Mga trainees ko, alam yan. Ang prating line ko sa introduction is, sige, anong gusto nyong patawag sa training na to? Kahit anong gusto nyong ipatawag sa inyo, pagbibigyan ko ang mga trip nyo. Gusto nyo bang patawag na pogi? Gusto nyo patawag na sexy? Pagbibigyan ko kayo. Sige, anong gusto nyong ipatawag? Kasi that allows people to be comfortable. Ay, pwede pala akong maging ganito dito. Hindi ako ma-judge. No? So yun, ask pronouns. Pag sinabi sa inyo ang pronouns ng isang trans woman ay she, huwag nyo na kontrahin. Bakit she? Hindi ka naman.
Huwag na.
Nagtanong pa ako.
Oo, diba?
Naman, diba? So, again, it is not our place to do that. No? So, basic rule, if we do not know, if we are not sure, ask respectfully. Hindi lang ask respectfully. Tapos pag sinabi sa atin kung paano gawin natin ng tama. Hindi yung pakikipagtalo pa tayo. Kasi kung makikipagtalo rin lang naman tayo, bakit pa tayo nagtanong?
What's the point?
Makikipagtalo din lang tayo, di ba?
I guess ang sa akin din naman in that term is we never know who the person is on the other side or who they are. Kumbaga, yes, we do get their profiles every now and then. Ito yung training group ko for this batch.
The participants ko, ito yung roster ko.
May director ako, may ganito ako, may manager ako. Tapos, lalaki to, female. But those things won't really matter unless you know them or you get to know them talaga, na yung
Mm.
genuine yung interactions.
Correct.
Well, those are one of the things din kasi na we talked about with Sir Alvin last time, na D&I has to be genuine. Ayan, genuine dapat yung interactions. Like, if
And I
you
think
did...
that's kind of,
Mhm,
sorry Ken, but also, maisingin ko lang bago ko makalimutan. Aside from
mhm.
being genuine, kasi when you become genuine, it's actually anchored on a personal relationship.
Oo.
Dapat may
Diba?
relasyon kayo. So for example, kung kaibigan ko, gino ko, tapos okay sa kaibigan ko, it's not because dahil ganun siya, ganun ang expectation ko sa lahat. It's because meron kaming relasyon na kami lang ang
Personal
nakakaalam.
connection.
May mga jokes kami. So for it to be genuine, there has to be a certain personal relationship. So kung wala pang ganun, katulad 'di ba ng requirement natin sa training, ano ba yung number one requirement natin for training? You have to be genuinely interested in people. You should be a people person. Kung hindi ka people person, wag kang mag-training. Kasi tao ang titrain mo eh.
Oo.
Di ba? So you should be genuinely interested in people.
Yun nga,
Pag-trainer.
I think one of the things kasi is like, hindi, I have friends who are LGBT and then meron kang participant na ganito. And then you joke around with them, expecting the
Ina-assume
same, expecting the same
reaction.
reception or reaction with your friends or from the
Correct.
other side on your personal life. So, yun nga, we have to make sure first that we have genuine interaction to make sure that DNI is there. Kasi if not,
And, oo.
then it becomes compliance na lang eh. Parang gano'n. But,
And you ask for
again,
permission. Very important is you ask for permission. Because
definitely.
this is not your story to tell. A good example, gusto ko ng mga kaibigang bakla kasi parati silang masaya eh. So, ano palagay mo sa amin? Stop toy. Ano palagay mo sa amin? Mascot. Kailangan parating masaya. Eh ako, hindi ako parating masaya. Nagmamuay tayo ako, nagkakapwera ako, kaya kong manakit, kaya kong baliin yung panga mo. So ayaw mo kong friend kasi hindi ako yung baklang masaya. So yung mga generalizations na ganon,
Definitely,
dahil
yun nga.
oo, sa mga kaibigan ko kasi okay lang eh. Eh hindi mo naman ako kaibigan eh. Dahil lang tayo nagkita eh. So we have to be careful of those generalizations.
Ayun. So, ayun well, to our viewers, those are just some of the things that you might want to check or look into when doing classroom and online-based training. Well, of course, there will be challenges, ika nga, and just to skim through them quickly. Sa ano ba, Sir Jeff, sa experience mo, what are the sometimes challenges when you think about DNI inside the classroom?
Policies talaga ang kalaban minsan. And the existing company culture or the company DNA. I work with companies that are anchored in a religious belief. Christian, Catholic. So yun yung mga challenges talaga kapag hindi aligned ang inyong corporate culture, ang yung organizational culture, your corporate DNA, kapag hindi siya aligned sa DEI, mahirap mag-DEI kahit sa team mo. Kasi yung trainer kaya niyan eh. Within the training room, kaya niyan. Kasi yung may sphere of influence inside your training room eh. Ang challenge din kasi is that if you create a very good culture of diversity and inclusion in your training room, masusustain ba siya paglabas ng training room pag pumunta na yung mga tao sa kanya-kanya nilang mga departments? No, pag naghiwalay na kayo sa training. So really, ang successful diversity and inclusion culture, ang pinakamalaking challenge niya is policy, corporate culture, and when the training ends. Pag pumunta na sila sa mga teams nila, yung culture ba yon, yung diversity and inclusion and equity na yon na natutunan nila in the training room, makikita ba nila sa teams nila? Di ba? So, yun yung pinakamalaking challenge eh. When it's actually the organization, the leaders na hindi pa ready or wala pa sila dun sa point na ina-accept na nila itong DEI, whether it's because of a religion or a belief system, yun yung medyo challenging.
Siguro try to look at all the company policies no as a trainer. Mas madali siguro yun if you are an internal trainer. If external trainer ka, I think doing some digging first will help.
Ask your clients, no? Ask your client. Ano yung kasi syempre sila naman ang nakakaalam nun eh. A good example, siguro kung external trainer ka or training provider ka, take a look at their board. Look at their board of directors. Pag tinignan nyo, yung board of directors ba nila diverse? Diverse ba yung board of directors nila o yung board of directors nila ay puro mga matatandang lalaki in their 60s? Yun yung mga nagdidesisyon. Meron bang babae? Meron bang bata-bata? Are the decision makers diverse? That's a good sign. Ano ba yung running organizational culture nung tao? Ask your contacts, no, to share kung ano yung nangyayari. Really, a lot has to for external trainers, ito again babalik tayo. Your TNA really matters.
Ayun. Ako naman siguro I think one of the challenges din na they can expect, no, is personal din naman.
Correct.
I loved it when Sir Alvin said na lahat tayo may bias.
Oo, yun totoo naman yun. We all have bias,
whether we consciously know it or not.
Correct.
And sometimes it can affect how we approach our learners na, ay, ganito siya, ay, ayoko siya. I think going back then sa first question natin, yung sinabi mo na, si ganito and ganyan, magulo pag nagsama. Personal bias na natin yun. And it can sometimes affect us in making sure that everyone is included. Kasi on the fact that you thought about them doing negatively now without them even doing it yet, you've already secluded them eh. You've already created some kind of barrier from them to you. Diba? Or
yes,
in between the two of you.
I've been a recipient of that kasi normally alam natin yan, trainers alam nyo yan. Pag tayo nagtitrain ng bait-bait natin, tayo yung, alam mo yun, bastion of kung ano man yan. Pero pag tayo na yung mga estudyante, ang ligalig natin. Tayo yung mga estudyante natin na ayaw natin. Ako pag estudyante ko, maligalig talaga ako. Maligalig akong estudyante. I'm very vocal, I voice out my opinions. Patawa ako sa kwarto, ako yung pinakamakulit. Kasi ayoko ng training na boring. Ayoko talaga. So, dahil ganun yung persona ko, a lot of trainers na nag-train sa akin, they think na, ay, si Jeff, paano ba natin kukontrolin si Jeff? Yung konsepto lang, for example, pag nag-T3 tayo, pag nag-train the trainer kayo, di ba, may part sa train the trainers na different kinds of learners. Tapos may tag yung different kinds of learners.
Ayun,
the disruptive learner, the pabibo learner, the know-it-all, yung learner daw na know-it-all. Doon pa lang, no? Doon pa lang, tinatag na natin kung anong klase yung learner. Pwede ba, hindi naman kailangan know-it-all. Pwede namang inquisitive. Matanong lang talaga. I mean, hindi naman ibig sabihin, ikaw lang yung trainer sa kwarto, ikaw yung center of the universe and moving around you are the planets. Wala nang ibang nakakaalam. Malay mo naman, mas basa pa yan sa'yo. Naranasan ko yan eh. May trainer kami for a travel account. Tapos yung empleyado or yung new hire, mas well-traveled pa dun sa trainer. Si trainer may kinukwento na practice or culture. Siyempre, hindi naman niya alam kasi hindi pa siya nakakapag-travel doon. Napulot lang doon sa training module. Kwento lang sa kanya na nag-train the trainer. Nung kwento niya sa klase, hindi niya alam itong bata, mas gala pa sa kanya. Yung kanyang passport ng bata, napakaraming tatak, yung kanya tataklo lang. Oo, sabi nung bata, sabi nung learner, ay hindi na po ganyan ngayon. So si trainer parang nagitla si trainer, na-challenge siya. Ano gagawin natin? Mas ano yung bata, no? So pag tinignan natin the way we train our trainers, dun pa lang nagsisimula Yun, no, di ba? The know-it-all, the disruptive learner, the ganitong learner, we tag our learners na ganon. So doon pa lang nagsisimula na siya.
So I guess the biases will be there. Hindi naman natin pwedeng alisin But I guess on top of that, let's have an open-minded perspective na lang.
Or a proper use of language. Kunyari nga, yung know-it-all. Palitan natin. Hindi know-it-all. Inquisitive. Or for example, the disruptive learner. Palitan nyo, active. Malay nyo, may mga learners lang talaga maligalig. Tulad ko, maligalig ako Ayoko ng boring na training Diba?
I remember your session nga. But yeah, ganun nga.
Diba? The way talaga mawawala Hindi mawawala ang bias, guys. Hindi siya mawawala. Pag may nagsabi sa inyo, kahit yung magulang nyo, sabihin nyo, may favorite po ba kayong anak, inay at itay? Tapos sinabi ng inay at itay nyo, wala. Lahat kayo mahal namin ng pantay-pantay. Sabihin nyo yung nanay nyo, sinungaling kasi wala. There is always a bias. There is always a bias. It It cannot be
Yeah.
taken away, but it can be minimized by recognizing that it exists in you. Kasi kahit ako
Oh.
may bias eh. Ako, ang
Mhm.
training ko, natutuwa ako pag mas maraming lalaki. Bakit? Kasi pag ang lalaki, biniro ko, sumasagot, pumapalag. So may banter, masaya ang klase. Pero pag babae kasi minsan, alam mo naman,
Nahihiya
babae,
ng konti.
ganun-ganun lang. So hindi sasagot. So, yung inaantay kong sagot, di dumating, napanis yung laway ko, napanis yung joke ko. Di, sige, go na lang tayo doon.
Go na lang sa
So, diba,
lesson.
I also have our biases eh.
I see. Ayan. Well, of course, ayun, no, it's all about talaga controlling oneself. And, well, to end off our topic, I guess, no, ang dami na rin natin na share, like, the benefits, what are the practices na ginagawa na hindi na talaga nakakatulong din, how to do it in classroom-based and online training. Now, to cap things off, siguro, are there any resources or preparations that an L&D professional can do to make sure or can look for to make sure that DNI is in their training rooms?
Okay. So one, katulad ng sinabi namin ni Kevin, look at your biases. Dapat ikaw mismo alam mo kung sino ka. Alam mo yung values mo and yung character mo as a person. Kasi kahit train ka na, alam mo naman tayo, trainers, perception management, ingat sa pagsasabi, ingat sa itsura, pero remember, the face does not lie. Nakangiti ka nga, pero yung kilay mo nandito. No? So, in communication, or in training, ikaw, whether it's DI, whether it's anything, you have to check your biases. Check your biases before you enter the door. Ano ba yung mahalaga sa'yo? Ano yung mga bagay na medyo may bias ka against? Dapat alam mo yon. Kasi pag alam mo yon, makokontrol mo yung sarili mo. No? The second is to understand that your goal, you may not agree with them. Okay? Okay lang yon. We don't need to agree on everything. But we have to respect what everyone brings to the table. That's a reality that you have to understand. Kahit sino ang tumungtong sa training nyo, kahit gaano kalabo, kahit gaano kalala, kahit gaano kagulo, kahit feeling nyo yung learner walang masyadong ambag, okay lang yon. We have to respect, understand, and accept what everyone brings to the table. No? Kasama yon sa pag-check. Kasi bago kayo pumasok ng training room, i-check nyo muna yung sarili nyo. Second, be aware of your corporate culture. Nasaan ang DEI sa inyong corporate culture at inyong DNA, sa corporate DNA ninyo. Take a look at your policies, no, procedures, no? Ano ba yung mga dapat ninyong pag-ingatan, no? Also, aside from that, take a look at national and local legislation when it comes to anti-discrimination. A good example, pag ako nagtitraining, prati kong minsan ginagamit na example, yung Safe Spaces Act ng 2019. Marami pang organizations ang hindi nakakaalam ng Safe Spaces Act. So pwede kang ihabla, nakasama na sa Safe Spaces Act ang protection from misogynistic remarks, homophobic remarks, at transphobic remarks. Maraming hindi pa nakakaalam noon, no? Ay, sorry pala, baka lang, I am not a lawyer. Please do not take this as legal advice.
Nabasa ko lang din ito. It is a part and akala nila, hindi na uubra yung defense na, ay, joke lang. But, because
and more so, yung transphobic at saka homophobic jokes na kunyari, biniro mo yung bakla o yung mga bakla sa parlor lang kayo. You have to be aware na yung mga jokes na yan, you can be sued under the Safe Spaces Act of 2019. Ano pa hindi alam ng mga tao? Sa Safe Spaces Act, covered na ang public spaces. Anywhere, anyone that has access to, no? Palengke, jeep, mall, kung saan man yan, pwede na. Another thing with Safe Spaces Act, covered na din, pati online spaces, chat rooms, kahit kayong dalawa lang doon, covered na yan. Basta na-harass or na-offend. Ano pa, yung pinaka-importante sa Safe Spaces Act, no? Kasi sa RA 7877, yung ating Anti-Sexual Harassment Act, for sexual harassment to happen, it has to come, kailangan may presence of authority or influence. Kailangan boss or something bago mangyari ang sexual harassment. But in the Safe Spaces Act of 2019, hindi na. Kahit sino, pwede mo nang ihabla ng sexual harassment because the law recognizes na hindi lang boss mo ang pwedeng mang-harass sa'yo sexually. It can be colleagues, it can be peers. So for example, yung mga ganun lang, marami pa ring organizations ang hindi nakakaalam ng ganun. na yung mga biro, hindi nila akalain na pwede ka na palang ihabla from that joke. Aside from national legislation, ano yung mga local legislation sa inyong mga respective LGUs of operation ang meron that protects people from anti-discrimination? Dapat aware kayo doon. Kasi when you are aware, minsan kasi, no, alam naman natin yan, minsan tayo mga trainers, alam na natin yung bawal, pero minsan kailangan natin ng medyo panakot eh. Parang, huwag natin gagawin ito, makukulong tayo. Minsan ganun eh. Out of compliance, doon lang ang susunod ng mga tao eh. So at the least, you should know what legislation is in effect. Not only to protect you, but also to protect your learners. Lastly also, very important is kailangan kayo mismo, so kung nakikita nyo, you also have to reinforce that culture in your training rooms. Kaya very important eh. Kung sa'yo yung nagsimula yung joke, siyempre susundan yan ng mga tao. Kasi 𝐂𝐞𝐫 eh. So, pag kami narinig ka, ako, sa BPO dati, ang zero, di ba, may ZTP policy tayo, may zero tolerance policy tayo. Pag nagtagalog, may ganyan. Pag nandaya ka sa QA mo, ZTP, digwak ka kagad. But there also should be like no tolerance policy for anything that is derogatory, mga jokes na ganyan, disrespect. You reinforce that in your training rooms, no? But all of this is anchored on the fact na kapag pumasok ka sa trainer, it should start with yourself. You need to know your biases, you need to know your beliefs and value systems, and you need to be open and accepting of what people give to you. Iba yung tolerant sa accepting ha. Accepting, there is a difference. Yung tolerant kasi, okay, sige, okay lang yan. Pero masama ka pa rin tao. That's not acceptance. That's tolerance. When we say acceptance, you recognize your differences, you accept them however different they are.
Ako siguro nakikita ko problem dyan if ever na hindi mo ma-analyze na mabuti yung responsibility mo or yung power mo as a trainers. May sinimulan ka and then it throws into something it grows out of hand, ika nga. Like you started to joke.
Na, tapos hindi mo na control.
You made a statement, you made a joke, you made some actions. Although pabiro lang, like, ay, ganyan ka pala. And then they started doing that and then it becomes an habit.
Kaya tinawag mo yung isang participant na medyo malambot, tinawag mo, sis, gano'n mo. Hindi naman kayo close eh. Ba't ka nakikisis?
True.
So
make sure na yung power and yung responsibility mo sa trainer, you are well aware. Ika nga.
Correct. Kasi you have a sphere of influence eh. Yung training room mo is your sphere of influence. Lahat ng ginawa mo doon, pag lumabas yung mga learners mo, tangay-tangay nila yan. So, walang ibang ituturo kundi ikaw.
Ayun. Well, ako siguro, no, ano lang talaga din, at the end of the day, we should watch out what we say, what we do, what we share na rin also with our personal life. Kasi things like that might cause, indifferences between us and the learners. Correct. Or even our colleagues in the organization. Very important yun. Well,
ako din, last na lang din, Kevin, no, not only for the trainers but also for the training leaders that may be listening. For your trainers to include diversity, equity, and inclusion in your class, in their training rooms, have it in your teams. Kasi kung sa team nyo, ikaw ang training leader, hindi ka rin DEI, hindi ka nagpo-promote ng inclusion within your team. Sabi namin ni Kevin, magti-trickle yan, bababa yan sa mga learners ninyo. So, if you lead the training team, start with your trainer, start with your team. No? Allow them to be humans, allow them to alam niyo yun, wag masyadong perfect, masyadong yung itaas sa pedestal. Hayaan niyo sila to come to the office as they fully are. Hindi yung papasok sila sa office ng mga 75% lang kasi. Kasi hindi ka pwedeng mag-mock up, hindi ka pwedeng mag-lipstick. Kahit yung mga ganun lang. For example, yung mga male kasi there's male makeup ngayon eh. Dito sa Pilipinas, that's considered a sign of femininity. Gusto lang naman ayusin ng trainer mo yung palitada niya sa mukha. Di ba mo siyang basagin masyado? Naka-foundation siya. Mag-thank you kayo sa DPWH kasi maayos na. Di ba? Thank you, DPWH. PH, gandang public works and highways. I mean,
Uh-huh.
hayaan nyo. Let your trainers come as they are. As long as no rules are broken, nothing is compromised, let your trainers come as who they are. And trust me, they will allow their learners to come as they are. Kasi sila mismo hindi nakaka-experience sa teams ninyo.
Ayun. Well, thank you so much for that, Sir Jeff. And as always, no, I had fun with our episode and learned more about how to do or how to promote diversity and inclusion inside the training room. I guess that's all the time we have for today. And again, hopefully our watchers or our viewers right now, na-catch ninyo. It's not siguro sa akin na lang last word is it's not supposed to be that hard, no? It shouldn't be
Kasi
a
it's
great
just to be a decent human being
oh,
eh.
it shouldn't be a great deal of undertaking. It's all about us wanting to become decent fellow human beings of other people now. Ayun. And again, if you want to learn more, if you miss some of the pointers that we had, feel free to check our episodes and our previous episodes with Sir Alvin. Well, Sir Jeff, any last things to share for our viewers?
Siguro, last na lang when it comes to DEI, very gas-gas na quote for DEI, but this is very true. Diversity is having a seat at the table. Inclusion is having people speak at the table. Equity is listening and giving power to those voices. So think of it as such. Kung sa organization nyo, ako ang thinking ko talaga and ginawang ko na to with my other organizations. If I don't have a seat in the table, magdadala ko ng sarili kong silya. If I do not have a voice in that table, sisigaw ako all over your voices hanggang sa marinig ninyo ako. No? So, tulad nga ng sinabi natin, diversity, equity, and inclusion is really all about you. It's about your person. It's about you learning to accept the differences in others. Once you do that to yourself, you can do that to your fellow human beings. And, it takes time, it takes a lot of acceptance, but you will be getting there. So, and again, pag hindi ninyo alam, ask respectfully. Pag sinabi sa inyo, gawin nyo. Huwag na kayo makipagtalo. It's not going to kill you.
Ayan. Well, again, Mr. Jeff Garcia. Sir Jeff, are you available to be contacted? Saan ba? If
Sure.
ever people would like to
Please,
know more.
yes, please message me if you have questions, concerns, or gusto niyo lang makipagtsikahan at makipag-antsahan sa akin. Nasa LinkedIn ako. That would be the best place to talk to me. If you see me on IG, yon,
Facebook.
see me, medyo baka hindi ko kayo masagot doon
Oh.
kasi ang aking IG is for my artista students. Medyo
Oh.
ina-align ko yung aking mga social media kasi may mga purpose siya. But for any training needs or if you want to discuss or for whatever purpose and if any L&D purpose, please find me on Instagram. It's Jeff H. Garcia.
There you go. All right. Well, Sir Jeff, always a pleasure. And hopefully
Thank
we
you,
can,
Kevin.
for a third time, balik tayo for our show. And for
A
now,
yearly, pang-anniversary.
pang-anniversary si Sir Jeff.
Pang-anniversary.
Ayan,
Kasi
diba?
ako yung episode 1, tapos after 1 year ako,
pilot.
pang-anniversary tayo. So yearly daw ang guesting ko dito.
Ayan. Well, hopefully we can find another episode now. Well, for now, ingat lagi, Sir Jeff, and see you next
Thank you,
time.
Kevin.
And that was Mr. Jeff Garcia. Wow. DNI shouldn't, as I've said, shouldn't be that hard. If you're not unsure, or if you're not, sorry, parang mali yan. If you're unsure of where to start, marami namang tao dyan. It's not an uncommon thing already. DEI is something that is, getting some recognition that it deserves. And of course, now, as I've mentioned before then, it shouldn't just happen it shouldn't be in our minds lang during June, the Pride Month, but should be a practice all year round. And who knows, diba? Yung simple efforts natin can lead to better connections, to genuine interactions with not just our learners, but also our co-workers in the organization. Well, that's it for today's episode of the show where we talk about everything and anything about L&D. I'm Kevin, and this is the Trainers Lounge. See you next time. Bye for now.